Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Instagram as Skeindeer, and I am Skeindeer Knits as a designer on Ravelry. And I also have the Ravelry group called Skeindeer Knits, which is the best place to get in touch and get pattern support and all that stuff. So hi. This is probably going to be quite a quick episode where I finally found some time to record between, sunset and me going on a bit of a journey. More on that at the end of the episode. So I've squeezed in a bit of time and I do actually have quite a bit of knitting to show you. 3 finished items, which means no works in progress currently, which is a big lie because I have over 50 works in progress and there's plenty to choose from, but of the active ones currently there are none, so that's interesting. But anyway, what are you watching? This is Skeindeer Knits, the knitting podcast, knitting talk show, where I sit and talk about knitting for about an hour or so every other week, ideally, not always. And to returning viewers, hi and welcome back. On the program today, I am just going to briefly mention that I am running the year-long Skeindeer Garment Cal of 2022, and I'm also running a knit along for the festive yoke that we started before, sort of at the beginning of last Christmas, and it will wrap up at the end of next, so there's plenty of time to knit either the festive yoke cardigan or the festive yoke pullover. I also have a new pattern. I'm gonna scoot aside so we can have that displayed on here, because I do not currently have the sample here, because that's over at Knit with Attitude, because this is a Knit with Attitude 10th anniversary book pattern release, and so it's been in that book for well over a year. And I got the rights back, so now it's also available for purchase individually, should you want that. I even had a bit of fun with rewriting the pattern, because I don't know if you know, but like usually when you get a pattern published, it is often written in the way that to be standardized to the book, to the publication, the magazine, what have you. And so it won't always be the way that I write my patterns, so I ended up like rewriting it and having it re-tech edited just to make sure that my changes, aren't introducing problems. And I ended up writing it 2 different ways. Because I found as I was writing, I was like, I can squeeze this pattern onto 1 page if I just remove all the fluff. And I could, and it is, but then I was like, a lot of people find the fluff helpful. And sometimes I think that's the people who are actually looking for, a chunky colorwork garment to get started on a colorwork or steeked garment. So I kept both. So you get actually 3 pages between, the final page and the introductory pages of just various information. So you can choose, do you want to print the 2-page version or the 1-print version? It's pretty easy to do with a printer. And so I thought that was pretty cool. So those of you who are confident garment knitters can just print the 1 page. Those of you who like a bit more hand holding can print the 2-page version. So the 1 page is just at the end, so you can just skip that page basically. That was a cool thing I tried. So what about this jumper? It is a bulky weight, big needles kind of colorwork jumper. I do know a few people have debuted their steeking experiences with this once, so that might be a good start to do that if you haven't steeked already. I get people coming up to me routinely, especially now that lockdown's over and you get to meet people again, telling me they haven't tried steeking yet and they're very scared of it. And we've all been there, those of you also have been steeking and those obviously who haven't yet. And I can honestly just reassure you that for every person who's come up to me and said that and have then since gone on to try steeking, have never looked back. Like they instantly just go like, when can I do this again? This is great. So as long as you know what kind of yarn you're dealing with and whether or how to secure it, you're good. I do actually talk a bit about that in this pattern here, because I used a different type of yarn than normally. This is Kusekofta. I do think I actually put the flow chart of sort of yarn to steek choice onto the public pattern page on Ravelry, so that's an option. But yeah, I got this hanging over my chair here because I wear it all the time. And it was a little bit cold yesterday because London's been unusually warm for March, except yesterday it got back down again, and we turned off the heating because the gas bills are astronomical lately, and so that was very, very cold. And so I just wrapped myself up in this thing and a blanket and all the knitwear, and then we succumbed to putting the heating up anyway. But yeah, that is the Aventude pullover. It is made in Blåne by Hillesvåg, which is their very chunky pelt wool yarn. It is lovely. Can highly recommend just sticking to that yarn, honestly. That they do also have the troll yarn, which is just a regular sort of Norwegian sheep wool. So there are some options there. And yeah, I'll put a little discount code here for those of you who have not got your mitts on this pattern yet. That code is just for people watching this video. So and it will be valid for just a short period of time and give you a discount for that pattern. You know, I'm going to do the same thing that I did in my newsletter, You're Lucky, that I'm doing. I'm equal treatment this time. And you can get that discount applied to the Aventude hat as well if you check out with them at the same time, but that will have to include both the hat and the pullover, so you can enjoy that. I just decided to do that on the spot, so now editing Ellie put that thing in there. So the finished items, what are they? And wow, yeah, I finished 2 cardigans for me and a baby onesie. So why don't we start off with the baby onesie? So you may have seen this before. All I've been doing today is just like finishing up this because I only needed the button bands and was like 1 cuff left. I was like, that's quick, it'll be quick. Turns out that can take a whole working day if you're also running like 4 or 5 wash loads at the same time. So that's been my day. It's done now. I obviously do need to sew in the other like 7 or so buttons, but it was a choice between the buttons or daylight. So this is just what we're dealing with there. This is using Fenul held double, which, my goodness, is not going to be the last time that I do that. That's for sure. It's really, really, really nice to hold double. Makes it about Aran weight, I would say. It's a colorwork raglan. I actually got some questions about that, if colorwork raglans can exist. That apparently not a lot of people have seen that. That is definitely a thing. There's a lot of Norwegian patterns that are colorwork raglans, actually. I personally have some reservations around raglans for a number of reasons. I find them difficult to treat failure across a big range of sizes, unless you make some, you know, clear modifications per size, right? And then you could argue that it's no longer a raglan. So. But for kids, I think raglans are great. Another reservation I have with raglans is they require a lot of elasticity to fit over the shoulders because they do increase sort of uniformly, right? So the full stitch count you may need for your full shoulders may actually happen a little bit later, which is fine because knit fabric is stretchy and can just wrap around your shoulders. But once you introduce stranding, it can be a bit tricky because that reduces some of the flexibility, elasticity, what have you. But for kids, again, not a problem. They have their tiny little shoulders, and that's perfect. There's plenty of room in these shoulders, as you can see. So that's the back of it. I also love just like the arms and the legs of this. It just looks like foxtails. It's so cute. So obviously the pattern's not out yet. I literally just got this off the needles, so it has to jump through a few more hoops before we can see it out there. Hopefully also I can photograph it on my go-to model of choice, my nephew, because no, we're gonna get to that at the end of the episode. So there, that's that. I've tried to tuck all the ends in on the inside, so it sort of looks finished-ish. What can I say? Yeah, there's going to be sizes, I think, ranging from, I don't remember, but I had so much fun playing around with kind of making my own size chart for children for this, because there's a lot of measurements missing from some of the sort of go-to size charts for kids that you find on Yarncraft Council and things like that. And so I decided to put together my own using so many different resources to get leg length and body length and things like that. And realizing that children don't really change circumference as much from one age group to another. You know, when you make adult sizes, you usually change it by bust circumference, chest circumference, and basing a children's pattern around that, which is sort of your starting point when grading, you're gonna find yourself not needing that many sizes, and one circumference can cover a very large age range. What does differ, however, is the length. So I decided to combine a lot of different lengths with each size, and it's really just mostly the leg length that you have to vary a lot. So that's gonna vary a lot. So yeah, it was just an interesting approach to making sure you're covering all the sizes, but with a sort of different focus than what you do for adults. I don't even have a name for this yet. It's so tempting to call it something to do with foxes. I don't know. We'll see. It's very much up my nephew's alley, and by that I do mean my sister, because she will pick anything that's like woodland, forest, autumnal, fox, anything for him. So obviously she chose these colours when we were at the yarn shop in my hometown during Christmas. So this was pretty much an order, and I only had to decide kind of what to make it actually look like. So obviously orange as main color was already predetermined based on the yarn we'd bought, and so I looked up a chart in my go-to kind of Norwegian colorwork chart sources and found this from the village of Særbu, and it worked with like the 3 different colors that we had, and I could repeat some of it onto the cuffs. So That's nice. Terrible timing for the time of year we're at up in the Northern Hemisphere, but that's that. Hopefully he'll have some use of it still. We do tend to keep baby sleeping outside in Norway. It's like a whole thing. So yeah, more on this when we get closer to the release date. So yeah, just look forward to that, I guess. I'm really pleased with it. The yarn, honestly, I mean, you guys know I've been working with Phoenix for so many times and it never gets old for me, but to hold it double has opened up a lot more possibilities for me. I've been gravitating a lot more to quicker knits lately, like Aran weight and worsted. You know, you got the Librarian, it's also sort of Aran-ish, and yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of people think of anything that's Aran weight and give or take as automatically heavier. And I don't think that's the case necessarily. I mean, obviously this is a child's garment, so it's not really going to be that heavy anyway. But if you look at something like the Librarian, it's quite thin fabric because of just the loftiness of the yarn and, you know, size of the needles, gauge, all that stuff, that tint. It just doesn't feel like a very heavy garment. And I do think maybe that is perhaps a preconception that comes from superwash yarn. You have to work superwash yarn at a certain gauge just to make sure you don't get a very gappy fabric most of the time, unless that's what you're going for, obviously. Whereas with lofty non-superwash yarns, you have a bit more freedom there. You can make things that just have a bit more air to it. It's just a bit lighter. And so I really enjoy using these kinds of yarns with chunkier weights, because I don't find that it has the same problem of being super heavy. Like, I don't want to have a sweater that's more than half a kilo, but that often ends up being the case with superwash. The weight does not end up being the case for these non-superwash yarns. So that's a bit of a ramble about the yarn as well. So that's one finished object. I just gotta sew in more buttons. Probably do that on the plane. More on that in a bit. But yeah, let's go look at some other things that need buttons. Everything I have today needs buttons. The Marius. Here it is. It is now been steeked. I literally just all of this stuff has been steeked. I can't work flat. It does not bring joy. I thought about like, oh, should I film it? But actually it's such a pain to film steeking and I don't really know. One day I'll have like a proper like teaching material, everything you need to know about steeking with videos and everything. But for now I'm just like, I'll literally just sit here with the knitting and just grab a scissor and just like, it's not really a huge deal for me anymore. Like all the yarns I've used are sort of similar-ish type things that I know it's not a huge risk. Just do crochet and reinforcement and cut through. It would probably be good if I learned something like back stitches or something a bit less bulky, but honestly it's just not an issue for me. If you know what works, don't break it kind of thing. So yeah, we got some loose ends on this as well. I haven't woven in the ends, but that is sort of a job I do at the same time as sewing in the buttons. So without further ado, let's get this cardigan on. Here we go. Oh, okay, this is everything I wanted. Yes. I think yes. So this has been worked in Ask by Hillesvåg, one of my favorite yarns from my favorite mill in Norway. Gorgeous, gorgeous yarn, sort of sport weight, little bit heavier than Finer that I was just talking about, and just scrumptious. Just how this color work just pops with it. Like I have done a soaking and drying kind of blocking. I don't really do much faff around blocking garments, but I did do a soak and just laying it flat and having it hang over a chair for a bit. I also use the spinner in the washing machine, so I have it lay in just like a tub of water, and after at least half an hour I'll just pour that into the washing machine and just let it spin dry, and then it sort of comes together again. And then I just like stretch out the bits that need a little bit of stretching by hand and just like lay it flat to dry. Or this was almost dry, so I had it hanging over here. It was fine. I was a bit worried for the short rib at the end that was going to flop up, but so far so good. It was sort of flopping a bit as it was drying, but it has not done that since. So it needs buttons. Obviously, I have a lot of lovely pewter buttons. Again, I can't tell you how to get hold of them unless you go to a Norwegian yarn shop, but Googling Norwegian pewter buttons might do the trick for you. That's certainly what this one needs. I will say I thought this was going to be a slightly bigger cardigan, but I suppose after lockdown, you know, it is what it is. I think it's also the length. I tend to have my cardigans a bit shorter, and this one just goes a little bit more over my hips too. Where obviously I'm a lot wider than above. I'm a very pear-shaped kind of gal, so that's fine. Kind of wish I'd done it a bit shorter, but it is what it is. It is what it is. So the story of this cardigan was simply just me wanting a like proper authentic kind of Norwegian Marius, but also I find the construction methods used for all the Mariuses and all the Marius books that I have kind of uninteresting. They're not really something that, you know, keeps me wanting to do it, and so I thought of a way to make it top down. And so I was sort of jumping off from the, I think, Eyelander version A that's in the pattern. Both version A and B are in the pattern, and decided to just not shape the neckline at all until once I've got past a certain point, and then I just cut it out to my liking. I just pulled a strand of yarn through just to sort of make sure it was symmetrical and sort of the same depth that I wanted, could measure and everything, you know, and cut out a little bit from the back neck as well to make it drop slightly there to feel like a round neck. And that worked out really well. Secured it with a combination of crochet reinforcement and back stitches, I think, and that's all tucked away in this like rollover rib neckline that's kind of just small, and yeah, just to hide the steek there. Nothing's hiding the steek here, that's just hanging, same with the arm steek. A lot of times when you have, say, as with the kusakofta, there will be a panel that's at the end of the bottom up sleeve that is meant to cover the steeks on the inside here. So that's what I've done with this entire cardigan. All the steeks are hidden in the button band, in the armhole, all that. I'm just mentioning it because it's happened to be here anyway. Whereas, I don't know, most of the time I just don't care. So for this cardigan that's just for my own amusement, I am not allowed to legally make a pattern as the Marius. It's the one knitting pattern you just don't go near because of some like branding protection something. Even though it's based on the Satistar and that's public domain, just don't, we can talk about that one day. But yeah, this is just for me, just for fun. But if you do want to make your own and try use this method, you can make use of the Eyelander pattern. Yes, I keep thinking it's the Ultra, it's the Eyelander. I did use the Eyelander. You could probably also use Halduguide, either cardigan or pullover. That would probably be more helpful if you want to avoid the whole neckline thing that I did. It was just the pattern's going to tell you how to do that. And just replace the chart with the Marius chart. You can probably Google that. That would be an option. Just be aware that the chart is upside down, and that will make the sort of, all the stitches are upside down, right? So it looks a bit zigzaggy here where they would normally be quite pointy that way. I don't know if that made sense. I don't care, but that's a thing that's a consequence of working in that direction that I don't think you'd notice, really. Once it has buttons in, it will be like this, and I imagine I might be bringing this with me, or who knows. It's one of those things, the Marius, like when I in London, it's just great. Like Norwegians will recognize it, nobody else really knows. It's like, looks very Norwegian, I guess, and like, but in Norway it's such a cliche. Like, it's been done. It's had a rebound once or twice since it came out in the 50s, you know. It's, people might be a bit tired of it, but me living abroad for 10 years, I just love wearing this. It just gives me all the warm and fuzzies. Like, my dad had one of these jumpers that my grandma made for him when he was young, and now my sister has it, you know. It's like a whole thing. What else did I do? That I improvised the whole thing. So I said I started off with something around the Eyelander, but after I had the stitch count for the full bust, I worked straight. I estimated the length, maybe misestimated a little bit, is the right word. I knitted down here until I felt like that would be okay for like half the, you know, sleeve circumference. Improvised the sleeve and made some notes just to make sure I could match it for the other sleeve. I picked up around the armhole for the sleeve, obviously. Once I was down at the cuff, I decreased all in one round to have it, you know, to the stitch count that I think is suitable for a cuff, and made that quite short. And so that makes it quite baggy all the way down. There was like a set decrease rate, of course, but it's just not as much. So it you know, you could fit a jumper under here as well, and it just doesn't feel very clingy in any way, except for around my hips, except there, that's... Had I only made it a bit shorter, it would have been fine, but it's neither here nor there. Sure, it'll be fine once it's got some buttons on. That's the worst kind of modelling I've done in my entire life. So yeah, you can see the dip in the back here, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, the Marius. One of many. I'm sure this is not going to be my last Marius either. I have enough of this blue yarn to make another one, at least. I think I also got hold of some in Norway, thanks to one of you guys, thank you, who helped me get hold of some of the last bit of Tove yarn, so I might have, maybe my nephew will have one, you know, as per tradition. But enough about the Marius. Let's move on to the third and final finished work in progress. My goodness. And yes, here it is. This may look a little bit familiar if the camera is showing. It is indeed the Librarian. Not finished, I thought I was going to use the ends of the steek to just like tack down. So that's why it's on stitch markers here. Ignore that. Pretend it's not here. I even wore this cardigan out another day just having them in here. Yes, this is the Librarian Cardigan. I've been thinking you needed a cardigan version for a while. It's so weird because like I'm bursting with new design ideas, but I feel like all my garments need a pullover version, a cardigan version, and a children's version. And I'm never going to get around to the new ideas if I keep doing this, but I wanted this in my wardrobe, so that's where we're at. And it just goes so well with every item of clothing that I have, so you know. So let's just do another show off for that. Get my hair out of the way. You can hopefully get an idea. I can't really see anything. Yay! Librarian. Very happy with the length of this one, but obviously I had the pullover to go by. So it's a V-neck, that's the other difference in addition to being a cardigan. So I can button it up here and all the way down, and so there. Same kind of blocking method that I did with the other cardigan. In fact, I did them on the same day. Just soak, chuck in the spinner thing in the washing machine. You want to have it on max if you're going to do that, otherwise it will felt and you're not going to be happy. In max or nothing when it comes to spinning and wool. It's got the puff shoulder, so the Librarian cardigan, much like the pullover, has two shoulder versions. You don't have to do the puff shoulders if you don't want to. The puff shoulders are in the appendix, so if you follow the main pattern, that's the regular shoulders. So that'll be the case for the cardigan as well. But the cardigan will have a steek. So the pullover, you do not need to steek anything. It can be made with pretty much any yarn. I kind of wanted it to be open in that way, but I was not going to be working the Librarian cardigan in the flat. That's not how we say that. Flat. I like doing things in the round, so this one will introduce a bit of a steek for you, but I'm sure it's easy to modify flat if you insist, but that's not me. That's not how I write. And I never actually found that me putting steeks in my patterns have like deterred anyone from making them ever. That seems people are very open to it, and I'm very excited to see that. And you know, having seen very big designer names introduce steeks into their patterns instead of making unit color work flat, and I see that a lot more now than I did like, you know, 5 years ago, and that's very exciting to me. The more, you know, we all work together to lure you all into steeking is a win as far as I'm concerned. So there. Librarian cardigan. I don't know if there's anything to say. Obviously construction. I'm all about construction. The way that both ensures good fit and just fun, having fun with it. So this is where I would argue that bottom up is actually preferred, which normally I am team top down, but I think when you want to do this arm size shaping, bottom up is the way to go, because then you can just work the body in the round, you work the sleeve in the round, and as you're joining them, which is how I like to do this arm size shaping, you then make these decreases under the arm here, and the more you make them, the narrower the shoulders become. However, if your shoulders are not as narrow as mine, you can simply omit some of these decreases and it'll be wider. So how about that? And you can see the puff shoulders here, just sort of. And so when it comes to this decreases along on the body side, so sleeve sides you want to keep the same because that's, you know, what makes the puff shoulders or the regular shoulders. But on the body side, you can skip out some of them to have broader shoulders and add more to have more narrow, which is quite tough to do top down. Because then you're going to know like, okay, well, how many rows do I have left, or rounds should I say, and just plan a lot more. That it's just not that fun, you know. So I quite like to do that bottom up, because then you don't have to like literally chart out the entire thing when you just want to follow through a pattern and make it quite easy. It can be done the other way, but I have done that, and it's just like a little bit more thinking, and then I'm just like, I want to knit, not think. I am using Vidde. Or Vidde. I'm using Vidde by Hillesvåg. They released Vidde and Verde a while ago that are different sort of pelt wool and pelt wool lamb's wool blends, and I believe this is the pelt wool lamb's wool blend, and it's so soft. This is just like it's just so soft. It's so lovely to have on my arms. No complaints. It's just nice. So when is it gonna come out? I hear you say. Well, it was supposed to come out this autumn, but I hadn't made my sample yet. So all my very good test knitters have finished ages ago and are just looking at me, side-eyeing me. You know, I'm sure they're not, but I feel like I'm sorry. But at least now I have the sample. Sans buttons, but we'll have buttons in a bit. And I'll hopefully get some nice photos of this while in Norway. That would be nice. I guess you want to hear about Norway now, so wrapping this up. These are my 3 works in progress. 2 of them are my designs, and then the Marius is just something I did for me, for fun, just for my amusement. Can't all be work, otherwise I think you can lose your knitting mojo being a knitting designer, and well, I'm not here for that. So what am I up to? What am I gonna do? I am gonna go on a trip to Norway in just a day, and it's gonna be so good. It will actually be the first time ever that I am going to northern Norway. I hadn't planned to vlog this, but now that I'm sitting here and saying it, I feel like I probably will. So I'll be bringing the camera with me, and hopefully I can photograph all these lovely knit pieces in beautiful, beautiful scenery in northern Norway. I have never been to northern Norway, quite frustratingly, because most of the time I meet a British person and they're like, oh, you're from Norway. I've been to Norway, and they start telling me about the trip on that boat that they go along the coast and the whole northern thing, and they've seen the northern lights. I'm like, yeah, I've never been. And like, most Norwegians do not live in the northern half. You know, it's like meeting someone from the UK and you keep talking to them about the Highlands, right? Like, which is amazing. It's just not the day-to-day experience of someone who's from Norway. It's the day-to-day experience of someone visiting Norway as a tourist, maybe, you know, depending on where you go. And finally, I will get to go. So that's going to be so, so exciting. It's just going to be something completely different. More on this when we're vlogging it. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm excited. I'm excited to have, you know, nice old Norwegian scenery to do the photo shoot and everything. I am a bit disappointed in myself that I didn't finish a really cool color work piece that I worked on for a very, very long time. Again, my poor test knitters, honestly. It's like kind of like something along the lines of Kosekofte. Not that it looks anything like it doesn't, but it's sort of like that kind of like piece. It's a beastie, and I have to frog like 3 inches because I messed up some of the color work. It's pointing in the wrong direction. I just can't unsee it. And that I lost a little bit of mojo when that happened after I picked it up after such a long time. So I might knit on it a lot on the plane, and then just like maybe there's a miracle there that I can have it done and photographed. But I will have a week to do it, you know, who knows. If anything, I'll be using this trip as a motivation to finish that. That can be my next work in progress, that like active work in progress. Clearly there's no lack of whips around here. What else? Well, we could talk a little bit about journaling. As suspected, I was going to fall off the, you know, the thing I sort of set out for myself. And I knew that because I do that. I think everyone who struggles with planners and planning and logging and everything have a bit of an issue there where we set up something, we think it's going to work great, and then we just don't work that way. That's why we will struggle with it. And so like, that's probably going to happen. And that's going to be okay. And that's kind of just been my mantra, to just be like, okay, if I fall off for a couple of weeks, I'll just get back on. There's nothing missing. I don't have to fill in anything that's missing. We'll just start again. And so I've done that. So I logged February pretty well. I've got all my little sort of timeline. So I'm trying to show you without showing it. And then come March, I have 1 week where I logged the 1st all the way to the 6th. And then I logged the 9th. And then nothing until the 24th. And 25th and 26th. Clearly not done the 27th. It's the 28th today and it's quite late, so it may not happen. But like, okay, I'm gonna start April. So now I just like slotted in April, and that's sort of what that's looking like ish. I haven't really put most of my plans in there yet, but now I can just start with a new month. But apart from that, I've actually logged things consistently when it comes to all these like trackers and things like that. That's been okay. There's sometimes I have to do it like 2 days after. I'm like, well, I don't quite remember. But generally, that's worked out. That was a lot easier, so that's probably why. I also started putting in these little tabs. Basically, tracker March and April. I didn't log January, and obviously February was over by the time I put the tabs in, so I didn't really need that. So I got those, and that works pretty well. They're just like these post-it tabs. Because this book actually does come with 2 bookmarks, but sometimes I do need more. That helps out quite a bit as well. So I just try to keep this one with me all the time. That seems to encourage the logging. Is as soon as I put it back on the bookshelf, oh dear, oh no, out of sight, out of mind. It does not work. I am enjoying the vlogging. Also, having skipped these weeks actually makes sure that I can fit my entire year into this book. But I'm not sure I'm going to be going with that, just because I think when I have these like blip weeks where I can't even seem to be logging anything, probably I should do something else in the book. Just have an alternative way of doing it instead. If clearly I've gone tired of the logging, that's not for me, I can do another type of list or something, or just have a blank spread of random and get the thoughts out that are like blocking the pathways that are going to be logging, that are just full of other stuff. I think maybe that's best, and instead of thinking of I have to make sure I have enough pages to the end of the year, because so what if I have to change it out at the end of July or something, you know, like that's fine. Okay. I don't want to be saving these pages, but right now I am very much aware that it fits perfectly with the end of the year. It's like when you are a human hurricane on the inside, but you also really like some kind of system. It's like having a devil and an angel on your shoulders that is never ever happy. But yes, that is all I have for this episode. That really was quite a short one for a change. I think I quite like this length. I will see you, hopefully, if I choose to log this trip, depending on just how much time I'll have on my hands. Either we'll be super busy, or we'll have a lot of, you know, dead time that we can fill in with doing that kind of thing. So we'll see. Hopefully I'll have some footage anyway that I can share with you. I hope you're having a good time wherever you are. I just want to send you all the best woolly, warm, knitty wishes, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!